Welcome to this final session of the module on the learning organization. We've covered systems thinking, personal mastery, and mental models. And now we're going to look at building shared vision and team learning as the last two key components here. So starting with building a shared vision, this cartoon kind of says it all. When you've got a diversity of people in an organization, which you always will have, or in your community or in a society, with all these different mental models and perspectives that we've been talking about, you have to have an overarching vision of where we're going that touches each person, because then they will do what they can, contribute what they can from their perspective to move in that direction. If we're missing shared vision, then what happens is everybody goes back into their own mental models and understanding and tries to work it out for themselves, and you get chaos as people start to pull in different directions. So it's very important not just to have a shared vision, but to make sure that that's really owned by people, that they really feel it, because then you don't have to be controlling and checking whether everyone's doing the right thing. But if they really get the vision and they really feel ownership of it, then they will start doing what they can from their perspective with their differences to move in that general direction. A very good piece of research that was done around this was Muzaffar Sharif's work, where at the robber baron camp, where basically he had two groups of children put into their own houses, given different names and identities, and encouraged to really build their own identity. And what grew up was a very strong culture in each of the groups. One was called the Rattlers, and the other was called the Eagles. And not only did they start to build their own culture strongly separately, but they also started to project negative things onto the other group. So a kind of really quite hostile atmosphere evolved between these two groups. And then what he found was when the truck broke down and they all had to work together to get the thing moving, when there was a superordinate goal, as he called it, an overarching vision and purpose that they could all get behind, then the differences, not the differences fell away, but the tension between the differences fell away. And they were able to work together on the same thing, even though they'd built up these quite different in-group cultures in the meantime. So it was a very clear demonstration of how important it is to have that shared goal, to bring together the diversity that's needed. And this is particularly relevant at these times when we're in these complex challenges. The kind of complexity that we're facing really does require a broad diversity of players to engage with it. And if you've got that level of diversity, then you need to have a shared buy-in, shared goals, shared vision that brings that diversity together to work constructively towards something that no one of the parties could actually have achieved on their own. So the final piece here is on team learning and the importance of teams within an organizational context. So teams need to be able to work on complex issues. They need to have a diversity of composition and be able to draw on the differences within the team. So those differences, once more, don't become competing, but strengthen each other within the team context. They need to be able to work together, coordinating their efforts, communicating openly and closely with each other. And trust is really important within the team context, that they can rely on each other, that they can relax into the team context, they can trust the other person is going to do what they can, that they're all going to work together towards this shared goal. If there is a lack of trust, then people will withdraw into their own peace and will find it much harder to work for the common goal of the team. At the same time, teams needed to be interacting with each other, so across teams, collaborating together between teams. And Peter Senge called it nested teams. It's like having different teams in relationship to each other in a bigger context as a way of demonstrating how that interaction can happen. So just as there needs to be interdependency within a team where different individuals hold different pieces of the puzzle, so across the organization, we need to see that one team has a specialism in one area, another team has a specialism in another area, and that you need each other to be able to work together towards this shared goal. One of the key elements for successful team learning, Senge identified as dialogue, as a constructive way of communicating with each other. And he was drawing on David Bohm's work on dialogue. A little definition here of dialogue, dia logos from the Greek, meaning a free flowing of meaning through a group, allowing the group to discover insights not attainable individually. So being in the group context means that you can get insights, come up with ideas for action that no one person individually would have been able to come up with. And here's a few elements of what they call Bohmian dialogue, the dialogue method influenced by David Bohm. So the group agrees that there will be no group-level decisions made, so in the conversation. So there's no pressure to come to a decision. It's really an open inquiry into the question that's present. Everybody agrees to suspend judgment in the conversation. So we're not trying to get into what's right or what's wrong. We're going to appreciate the different perspectives that people have to bring to the question and know that given the diversity of people here, we're going to get different understandings and that they all enrich our picture of what's going on. If it is one person's view on it, then it's a view that's true for that person and we can't deny its place in the bigger picture. As people suspend judgment, they are also as honest and transparent as possible. So because judgment has been suspended, it allows us to speak our truth. It allows us to share with each other how we really see the situation, because we know it's not going to be put down or taken apart or critiqued by another, but will be allowed to be there as the truth of that person at that time. And at the same time, the individuals in the conversation are trying to build on each other's ideas. So as somebody brings something in, we look to how can we connect to what's been said. And that builds up a very rich conversation which brings insights out that are very valuable to the organization as a whole. So that finishes off our look at the learning organization and these key components: systems thinking, the personal mastery, the mental models, the importance of building shared vision, and of team learning. And these are all components that we need to be looking at and giving attention to in our own organizations and contexts to create an organization that is going to be able to navigate these turbulent times. An organization that can take in new information, that doesn't contract under stress, is able to process it, where the individuals have the ability to hold their center in the storm and to be able to navigate together through this difference so that the organization as a whole can grow, adapt, and evolve as the life conditions are changing too. So now you have a chance to think through this, apply it in your integration task, keep working on your personal development modules, particularly relevant now in the context of the personal mastery, and engage with each other in some conversation about these topics during the forums.